accompanied by the roasted potatoes that I started to tell you about a couple of weeks ago, but we never got to make together. So tonight we'll be making those, and it'll have the same vegetable bundle on the plate. And then we'll get to concentrate on some garnishes, which are appropriate for this dish, including that nice big container of Durkee's crispy onions in the middle. And they're appropriate garnish if you don't snack on the whole container first. We have a roasted garlic head with fresh rosemary. We have chopped scallions, we have chopped parsley, we have a tomato rose, and we have a scallion flower. So hopefully we'll be making all those together as the night goes on. Let's get to it. I wanted to show you first in this in these days. I don't know if you've had the issue, and you can come back over here, but I have been having a hard time in the grocery stores finding chickens that were already butchered, either cut up chickens, not so much boneless breast, but cut up chickens. So led me to think, I'm not sure if you guys knew how to butcher chicken yourself, if the opportunity necessitated itself. So what I do is I turn the chicken over so it's laying on its breast actually, and I grab its little tushy, if you will, hold it, and I put my scissors, my kitchen shears, just to the right. I feel out where the backbone is, and I just start cutting lengthwise. Then you can open up the chicken and see what's inside. You can see that backbone. You see it? Okay, and I'm going to put my scissors on the other side. And I got the backbone out. I do not throw that out. I keep all my bones for making chicken stocks, which lend itself towards making chicken soups, etc. I turn the chicken around, and I put my shears right down the center of this backbone. Now, if you watch a video on butchering chickens, you'll see people take out this little reddish bone in here called the keel bone. When you're roasting a chicken or when you're baking in the oven, there's really no need to do that. So I just put my scissors right through it. And there we have two separate halves of chickens. Bing, bang, boom. Now everything else defines itself. You can feel the cavity between the breast, the white quarter, the breast and wing, the dark quarter, the thigh and the leg. That's all meat. There is no bone there. You just cut them apart just like so. That's a leg quarter, that's a breast quarter. Obviously, if you wanted to separate those pieces, with my finger, I find the joint. I don't know if you can see it, but the joint of the leg and the thigh with my thumb, and I put my scissors right through there. And now I have a thigh with some extra skin, and I have a leg, and I have a breast. There's no reason to take the wing off, but if you wanted to, it's the same process, finding the joint of the wing where it meets the breast and just taking that right off. Let's do that just so we can see how. That comes off nice and clean, have a little excess bone, and that's how you butcher a chicken. Okay, now to make this, as I started to say a couple of weeks ago, I make things kind of out of order. We want to do the most time-consuming things first. So in this case, we're going to make the sauce. I'm going to put my chicken away. I'm not putting it in the sink. I have a bowl in the sink. Just so you know. Okay, I'm going to put my chicken cutting board away in the other side of the sink. I'm going to change my gloves. And please, when you're working with chicken, with raw chicken, sanitize your equipment after you finish. This is plain old ordinary Clorox cleanup. It is food safe, and I spray my cutting board and everything that I've used with the chicken. I just let it soak for a while. Okay. Okay, we're going to grab another cutting board. This is a saute pan, for lack of a better terminology. It's called a sauteuse with the high sides. I'm going to make the marsala sauce in this pan. I've already put my olive oil in here, and I'm going to turn it on low so the oil gets nice and hot while I'm cutting my onion. If you remember from a couple weeks ago, we cut off the ends of the onion, cut it in half lengthwise, take off the peel, which is interesting to do with gloves on. And then we put our onion so that the striations of the onion, the grain of the onion goes, in my case, left to right. It's what I'm more comfortable with in the cutting process. We curl our fingers behind us, and we just make some nice thin slices. My knife is extremely sharp, so it goes right through there, which leads to me to tell you that please, sharp knives are always safer than dull knives. They'll actually be safer to the cutting because they do what you want them to do and they don't go into your fingers, God forbid. All right, so now I turn my oil a little bit hotter. So I used a half of a large onion in this case. I'm putting the sliced onion into the oil, which is not hot enough. And that'll start sweating. I don't want it to brown. Remember last time we worked together, we used the term sweating. We don't saute. Saute leads you to a brown, crispy onion, and sweating does not. We just want the juices to come out of the oven and the onions to be translucent. While those are simmering, I don't know if you can get it. We're going to add about 3 cloves of garlic. Now, this is garlic that I put in the food processor early on, and I pre-did it. Just so you know, 1 clove of garlic is equivalent to about a half a teaspoon of chopped garlic. So I just put in actually a little bit more than I said, but I happen to like a lot of garlic. So we've got simmering in the pot right now a half a large onion and 3 cloves of chopped garlic. Now, in order to save some time, I have pre-sliced some mushrooms. In this little canister, I've got 8 ounces of domestic white mushrooms, otherwise called button mushrooms. I've got 8 ounces of shiitake mushrooms, which are, well, in the store, we have shiitake mushrooms. And I've got 8 ounces of cremini mushrooms, otherwise known as baby bellas, baby portobellas. That fills up a complete 2-quart container, which, as the onions begin to soften, we are going to put the mushrooms in there. And you're going to see that the pot is going to be very full with mushrooms. That's okay, because if you don't know and you haven't worked with mushrooms, mushrooms shrink down to almost nothing. We're going to stir that around. We're going to let that go just a couple of minutes until I start seeing some juices of the bottom layer of mushrooms starting to secrete. Then we're going to add our liquid, which is a half a cup of marsala wine and a half a cup of chicken stock. Marsala wine, if you want to find kosher, this particular brand, Taylor, is in fact kosher. Oddly enough, some of the bottles don't have the hechsher, so you want to be careful if you're paying attention to that. But it's the same wine, just produced in different plants. The big jugs of the tailored wine are always kosher. The liters are not always. So you want to look for the hechsher. Let's see how our mushrooms are doing. So yeah, you can see that the bottom layer of mushrooms are starting to get moist. At this point in time, I'm going to add some pre-mixed salt and pepper, about a half a teaspoon. Now I'm going to do about a teaspoon. I'm using a little demi spoon that constitutes about a half a teaspoon. It's got nice little humps on top if you can see it. We're going to stir that around again. And we are going to add our liquid. Again, a half a cup of chicken stock and a half a cup of marsala wine right into that pot. That's all we have to do with the marsala sauce for about 20 more minutes. We're going to stir it occasionally, but that is the marsala sauce. You may ask how it gets thickened. I'm going to tell you. It doesn't involve the sauce, actually. It involves the chicken. So that's all stirred. I'm going to swap the burners and put it on the back burner, so to speak. Not so to speak, actually. And let that simmer nicely. Meanwhile, in my sautoir, an actual saute pan, which you're very familiar with, all of you have a set of these, I'm sure, at home. I'm using a medium-sized one, and I've got about a 1/4 inch of olive oil in the bottom, which I am now going to put on the burner and get hot. While I'm doing that, I am taking, this is from a chicken that I butchered earlier for 2 reasons. Number 1, so I would have it ready for you and all set to go. And number 2, I'm not that fast at butchering a chicken, so I wanted to make sure it was done right. When you see this little thick end, the thick top part of the breast, we want to pound that down a little bit. Now I use, here's a chance to give you a teaching moment. Any recipe book, any cooking book will tell you to put the chicken in between 2 pieces of plastic and then pound from there. Not necessary at all, in my opinion. If you don't use sheer strength when you're pounding, okay, and you use kind of, why don't you try and go back to the other camera if you can. If you use kind of a stroke that's going to be going on the outside of your body, so you hit and you go outside, it thins the chicken and it spreads it apart without shredding. I'm going to do the same thing to the other one. Now, for a plated dinner, you can use the whole breast. Actually, this is half the breast as you look at it. But if you want to make it look very nice, if you want to make it look very nice, we're going to cut this chicken into medallions. We're going to trim off any excess fat that's attached to the breast, that was maybe attached to the skin when it came off. But we want to take all that off, because otherwise, if you leave it on, it could make your dish look a little bit sloppy. So we just want to trim that a little bit. Now this particular breast is a smaller one, so I'm going to cut it into 2 pieces. Okay, this is now a chicken medallion as opposed to a boneless, skinless breast. This one is a medium size. I can cut it into 3 pieces if I choose, by going at an angle against the breast and then going at the opposite angle on the other side. So now you can see my split breast has been turned into 3 different medallions. So out of those out of that whole chicken breast with 2 sides, I got 5 pieces for my plated meal. We are now going to take a seasoned flour mix. This flour I have pre-added. It's about a cup of flour, and I added about a half a teaspoon of garlic and about a half a teaspoon of pepper. Again, I like pepper and garlic. And I go light on my salt, so it's about a quarter teaspoon of salt. Reason being, kosher chicken breasts are already cured with salt, and they're already going to have a heavier salt content. You can always add salt at the latter part of the dish. I'm going to go back to my question. How do we thicken the sauce? So the chicken, the boneless breast of chicken, is actually dredged. Just dip one side and then the other in the flour. Shake off the excess, and then we put it right in the oil to get it brown. A note to yourself that when you're doing this, you can see that I put my hands very close to the oil because I'm comfortable with it. I know that the chicken is dry. If I had any drops of water whatsoever, I'd be concerned because if a droplet of water gets into the oil, your arms can look different than they were a couple of minutes ago. And we don't want that to happen. I'm also going to take from the chicken that we butchered. Sorry, I was turned away. I am also going to take from the chicken that we butchered a bone-in breast, and I'm going to dredge that in flour as well. So this becomes the thickening agent for your sauce, the flour itself. I'll explain how that happens in just a little bit. Okay, we're going to turn our chicken mess back here. Somebody wash that board for me. Any questions that arise, I will obviously answer anything when we're all done with the cooking process. I want to pay strict attention to it. I don't have to keep my eyes on everything, constantly, but I want to know what everything is doing. Our sauce is now simmering nicely. You can see that the mushrooms have reduced by about 50%. That's it. Okay. But the heavier mushrooms, the shiitake and the portobellos, are nowhere near done. They're going to take about 15 minutes, and we want those mushrooms to be done. We're going to take our tongs, and we're going to flip our boneless breast. Look at that nice color, that nice golden brown color. So what this is doing is actually browning the flour that was dredged on the chicken breast, incorporating the thickening properties of the flour into the chicken. So when we add to our chicken to our sauce later on, it's going to actually go towards thickening the sauce. There are other ways to thicken the sauce. Most of them are not kosher, but they involve cream and things of that nature. Another kosher way to do it is to take some cornstarch, stir it into some cold water, and actually add it to the boiling liquid. That can change your flavor, actually. So I prefer the seasoned flour attached to the chicken. Adherent to the chicken is a better word. And when the chicken is done, when it's nice and brown, we're going to just set that aside and let it cool and wait for our sauce to get done. See all that? Well, I've got I can count, 5 nicely colored pieces. And my intent when I plate is to take the chicken and actually stagger it in a dimensional type of stacking with the sauce over the top. Now, these pieces are a little bit oddly shaped, so I might do something like this. But you'll see that when we get to it. The same thing with the bone-in chicken breast. You can see that nice color. Obviously, when we put the chicken into the oven, the bone-in chicken breast is going to take a little bit more time to cook. But we'll allow for that. Now, the true test for one of your, to see if your sauce is done, not so much in flavor yet, is to take one of our heavier duty mushrooms. This is a baby bella, and actually taste it and see if it's done. And it is. So we can take that sauce off. We can take a baking pan. We'll make a little baking pan or decorative if you'd like. And we're going to take the brown chicken breast, put it in that pan. You can see it is totally raw, okay? And that's fine. What we want is the brown color on the chicken breast. And what we want is for most of the cooking process to be in the liquid. Normally, I wouldn't put a bone-in breast and the boneless breast in the same pan, but in the interest of space in my small oven, that's what we're doing today. I'm going to take my sauce, which you can see is still very, very liquidy. You can see those nice sweated onions. You can see all the mushrooms. If you were here, you could smell just sensation. We're going to take that pot and pour the entire pot of sauce over the chicken. Make sure that the mushrooms and the onions get all the way around. If you can get inside here, you can see that I've got a good inch of liquid inside the pan. That's fantastic. If I was doing my business, or if I was doing this for my family, I would actually stop right here. I would be doing this probably last night, if dinner was going to be this evening. I would stop right here. I would wrap it after it cools, and then put it in the refrigerator. The reason being, how many times have you said, oh, this chicken is so dry? This chicken, how do I make a moist chicken breast? Well, all this liquid is how you do that. And the brown color on the chicken is how you do that, because when you sear that chicken, the brown color means that all the juices are seared inside the actual meat. Same goes with beef, same goes with fish. Once you sear that meat, those juices are trapped inside, at least most of them are, and that's where your moisture comes from. So you're going to take, can you just put me a piece of foil? Thank you. When you're dealing with aluminum foil, always put the shiny side of the foil towards the food. That's for reflection. The shinier side reflects more heat downward, keeps the food hotter. It also has a little bit more of an inherent non-stick property. How many times have you taken something out of the oven and the chicken the foil is sticking to the chicken? So if you try to put the shiny side down towards the food, they're always going to be in a better place. The other way to do it, if you had something really saucy like a brisket or something of that sort, you could actually put a piece of parchment paper on top of the chicken and then wrap everything up and put it in the oven. And that's going to be a foolproof way of not having the tin foil stick to your food. I'm putting this into a 350-degree oven. And that's going to bake for about 20 minutes for the boneless breast, and about 35 minutes for the bone-in breast. So that allows us time to do something else. So let's do that, shall we? I wanted to show you a couple of weeks ago how to make the roasted potatoes that you can carve and make look like mushrooms. This particular dish is a perfect dish to do that with because the dish is loaded with mushrooms already. I've had several times I've had people ask me, wow, how are those mushrooms so big when in fact they're just potatoes? So what you want to do is take a small bowl of cold water, have it all ready, just like you would soaking potatoes that you cut. I like to use a medium potato. I love when the potatoes have kind of a flared shape, because what I do is I take a regular old corer, an apple corer, pear corer, that tool. You should always have one of these in your drawer. I'm envisioning this potato and seeing this big, wide curvature of the potato as the top of my mushroom. So I'm going to stick the corer in from the very bottom of the potato and twist ever so lightly until I start going in. Now, notice the thickness of the corer. You've got about a ½ inch there. That's important because once the corer gets all the way inside the potato, you have to guesstimate approximately where that edge is. Otherwise, you'll slice your mushroom right in half. So I know that it's going to be right about here, and I'm going to put my knife in. And when it hits that solid background, I'm happy because that means I've hit the edge of the flat part of the corer. I'm taking my paring knife right around, and I'm just going to twist. See, that one broke. Of course, I did every one perfectly this afternoon. I never break these. Can't say that anymore. Okay, back where we started. Also, if you have a bad part of the potato, it's a perfect way to get rid of it without discarding the whole potato. We're going to go all the way around. This time I'm going to take the corer out. And with it comes that excess piece of potato, and you've got a nice looking mushroom. I'm going to put that in the cold water to absorb the, number one, to clean the rest of the potato that is now visible. And we're also going to take some of the starchy content out of the potato. I like to have 3 potatoes on a plated dish. If you remember a couple of weeks ago, I said I like odd numbers. I don't like even numbers. It just never looks right. The caveat to that, or the exception, would be that if these potatoes were exceptionally large, I would, of course, minimize my quantity. Now, I am used to doing this. The fact that I broke one in half doesn't bother me. I know that it was the potato's fault. It wasn't my fault. Exactly. So there are times where I've had to do 700 of these at a time. And yes, things break occasionally. And if you have a minimal amount of potato, you can always take the one that broke, roast it anyway, and put it on the plate. So we're going to let that soak for just a little bit. In the interim, in the meantime, we are going to make our vegetable bundles. Now, normally I would buy baby carrots, nicely peeled with the tops on. They always have this little portion of the top on. You can usually get those in the store. We're in the middle of a pandemic. You can't get those in the store right now. So I make my own. I don't know if you've ever seen these at Sunset or Mariano's. They have these nice skinny little carrots with the greens attached. This afternoon I took the greens off. I'm going to peel them. Anybody know where I put my peeler? While Randy looks for the peeler, we're going to start on something else. I'm going to cut my pepper for the bundle. Thank you. I found these nice little elongated peppers at sunset today, which I like very much. But today, we're just going to be using them to create a normal strip of paper. Pepper. I clean my peppers different ways every time I see them. Sometimes it depends on what I'm using them for. In this case, I just want to get the elongated flat side of it, and I want to cut it into strips. And I'm cleaning it from the inside out, taking that white membrane and taking it off. And of course, we will wash those in a moment. Getting back to my carrots, we're going to peel those straight down. Get rid of the garbage in a moment. I should have a garbage bowl out for myself. I don't. What I'm actually doing is when I draped the prep table this afternoon, it was too long, so I don't know if you can get a look at the side of the table. I actually swagged it and pinned it, and it created these nice little pockets. So I'm using one of those pockets as my garbage can right now. Now I want to make little baby carrots, so I'm actually going to slice them the size that I want. Keeping in mind that I want them about the same size as the red pepper. Forgot to do one. And the last bit is my green beans. Remember a couple weeks ago, we worked with asparagus. Sometimes I'll make my bundles with asparagus, but tonight we're doing beans. A pet peeve of mine is to, when people serve green beans with the stem on. So we always want to snap those off. They're easy to get off. They're a pain in the neck when you're doing a lot of them, but you don't want to be serving strings on your string beans. That goes for snow peas as well. You always snap the ends off, and if anything comes off of a snow pea, you'll get a string that comes down the side. These were just snapping off the ends and making sure that they're pretty. Okay. The next bit of we've got all of our vegetables that go inside the bundle, but we have to figure out what we're going to bundle them in. So we can either wrap them in a chive, which the chive has to be long enough in order to do. But tonight I've taken one of these nice little peppers, and I have decided to cut rings off. Now, make sure that everything is cleaned out inside there. And these will be the bundles for our vegetables. When we cook them, they'll stretch a little bit. They'll become a little bit more malleable. And there's also some ringlets that can be made from the larger section of the pepper, which I've already done for you. I have a bowl here, which I've already added about a clove of chopped garlic, about a tablespoon of olive oil, and salt and pepper to my desire. to taste. I'm going to take all of these vegetables and put them in that bowl. Make sure you always drop a green bean on the floor. Get those nice and marinated so they're not oversaturated with olive oil, but you can see that the garlic is incorporated to it. You can see the salt and pepper. Those are going to be some nice flavorful vegetables. I'm also going to take my potatoes and add them to the same water. Yes, I know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm saying. Add them to the same bowl with the olive oil and the garlic, and just zhuzh those around a little bit. Now, our oven has to be at 450 degrees. Yes, I know that the chicken's in there, but I'm cognizant of my time. Those of you with 2 ovens, an upper and lower, God love you. I don't happen to have that. They're going to take a sheet pan lined with paper, and we are going to lay the potatoes, seasoned potatoes, and the carrots together, and they're going to take about
Glenn, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we've lost your audio.
You can hear now.
Nancy, can you chime in? Can you hear me?
Now I can, yes.
Okay, the hardwired computer has gone off a little bit. It's trying to reconnect, so we'll hope for the best. We can't do anything about it. So I don't know what you missed and what I was saying, but I'm taking my nice heavy cast iron skillet, and I am getting that nice and hot. I want that very, very, very hot. And I'm actually going to sear my green beans and my red pepper and my yellow pepper in the skillet. So we're going to let that get hot for a second. Also, at the same time, stop playing with it. I've got in a little saute pan olive oil, margarine, chopped garlic, salt and pepper, which I'm going to get hot for the pasta aglio e olio, pasta with olive oil and garlic. Sorry guys, I'm a little distracted because the main connection is going out. I'm going to let that get a little bit melted.
Never connected.
Oh, you pulled it out.
No.
No. We're going to put the pasta in there, and again, not let it get brown. Excuse me, guys, 1 second. It's on the other side. No. You don't need to connect anything else. Okay, so that's the side dish for the pasta, the dish that we're doing with the bone-in breast. Meanwhile, our skillet has gotten very hot. Which cook faster than the carrots and the potatoes. We are going to add our red pepper. And we're going to add the yellow ringlet. And we don't want to forget to stir our pasta until that gets hot. Nancy, you can still hear? Nancy, can you still hear?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the ringlets are going to cook very quickly. So we want them to be just a little bit brown. We don't want them to get very soft because we want them to be able to be worked with. And we're going to put all the vegetables on a parchment paper lined tin. When the peppers get nice and black on one side, we turn them and we want them to get a tinge of color on the other side, and then those are done. Again, I'm a stickler for vegetables being al dente. Have a bite to the, when you chew on them, to have a little bit of bite to them. I do not like overcooked vegetables. So when the peppers have a tinge of color on both sides, they are ready to go. Same thing with the green beans.
Okay, Glenn, I think we lost you again.
Are we back?
You're back,
Okay.
but you've got some feedback going.
Should I fix that now? We should be all back to normal. Whatever normal is. Give me a sign you can still hear me, please.
Can still hear you. You sound great.
Okay, very good. So we've got our green beans and we've got our peppers and we've got our pepper ringlets all set to go. The potatoes and the carrots miraculously have gotten done already. And these are the big ringlets that I took off the top of the pepper. So these obviously I did earlier. And what I'm going to do is take approximately 5 green beans, 2 slices of red pepper, and 1 or 2 carrots. And we're going to take a ringlet and just feed everything right through. We want it to be nice and taut, so it doesn't fall apart. So we can add more of whatever you feel you want. And we have a nice, pretty vegetable bundle, which now, because I've worked with it, is cold. So we are going to put it back in the oven in just a moment. I'm going to make the other one just very quickly. I've got 1 carrot left until I get the other ones out of the oven that we just made together. And my potatoes are done too. You can see how nice those potatoes came out. Well browned, nice and carved, the stem's still attached. So those are ready to go. There's nothing wrong with putting the ready product back in the same dish that you cooked them in. There's nothing sanitation, that interferes with sanitation there. It's the same product, it's the same everything. So we're gonna put those back in the oven for a second. Now we can begin. Actually, I want to work on a couple of garnishes. I've got about 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, so I want to work on a couple of garnishes with you. And so those are nice and hot. A tomato rose starts with a tomato. I'm going to change my gloves. Actually, don't tell anybody that I'm going to work without gloves for this. For this, there's a top side and a bottom side of the tomato. It involves the section that you want to be visible and the section that you don't want to be visible. In this case, you don't want the stem to be visible, so you want that to be on the bottom. So we're going to take a regular paring knife and we're going to slice. Now I put my thumb in here on the other side of the tomato for guidance, and I come in from the opposite side and slice right through that stem area. Now, you know how people tell you to get a thicker skin, you shouldn't be too thin-skinned? Well, in this case, you want thin skin. So you want to practice, it's kind of like whittling. You go right around and whittle the skin off the tomato until you get to the very, I can do this faster, I just don't want to because I want you to see what I'm doing, until you get as far as you can possibly go, or until it rips. So in this case, I got all the way. I do not throw this out. I use this as my stock later on as well. And you lay the tomato out. This was the bottom. This is what we just whittled off. If you see anything that's sloppy for you, just like we did with the chicken, you can take this off. And this got a little thick on me, so I'm just doing this. You may not feel comfortable. Now I just start rolling it up tightly. And I just follow the skin all the way around. Until it comes back to the bottom of the tomato, right back where we started. And I flip it onto its own skin, its own stem. Now, there's something there that I don't like, so I would snip this top part off, but you get the idea. It's just basically a roll-up, and it ends up, this one I made about 6 hours ago, so it's starting to dry up, but just the tighter you can roll it, the better your rose is. Another thing you can do is you can take a head of garlic. You can slice the top of the garlic right off until you can see all the meat of the garlic. Remember a couple of weeks ago, we made a squeeze bottle of flavored oil. I've since changed it. It's only got garlic cloves in there and some peppercorns. And I just shoot some olive oil all over the top of the garlic. And I take a piece of tin foil. Remember, shiny side towards the food. And I flip that garlic upside down against the foil, and I wrap it as tight as I can, making sure that I smooth out the foil on top of the garlic. And I put that in a 450-degree oven sorry, 100-degree oven, but it's 450 right now, for about 20 minutes. When you start smelling garlic in your house, it's almost done. And we're going to take it out. Unreal how this happens. But we're going to take it out. And when you see some nice color on the garlic, and you can smell that nice smell, it is done. And then you can take any herb that you have. Rosemary is usually the nicest. I'll be honest with you, I've seen better than the one that I bought today. But you can take a couple of pieces of rosemary, just snap a nice section off, take the stems, and put them right into the center of that first piece of, yeah, that worked nicely. Let's try with a little harder stem. Right into that center section of garlic, and you have a nice piece of garnish for a dish that already has garlic in it. So that's another garnish. You can take a regular old green onion, scrape off some of that dirty stuff that you always find on it. Slice the head of the onion off so that you're sure you can see the ringlets of the onion. I'm using that word a lot today. Then I would take a paring knife, and I'm going to slice into that oven the onion about 1 inch deep, and just drag my knife towards the top, quarter turn it, do it again. If the onion is fairly thick like this one is, I'll do it again in between my slices. I'll make a diagonal slice on the onion about the size as I want the flour to be. And I will take a little container with ice, put it in there, and that flour will open up. And the longer you leave it, if you do this overnight, these petals will be curved all the way down. So that's how you make a scallion flour. We'll have with in a second. The chopped parsley is parsley that's been chopped. The scallions is scallions that's been sliced. And that's all that I've shown you today. So we'll get to that after we plate the entree, which we're going to do right now, and then we'll have some discussion. So the way I'm going to lay towel down so that I don't get the schmutz on my plates. And by this time, guys, because of our time frame tonight, most of the cooking is done. It's not.
Glenn, we've lost your audio again. Glenn, we've lost the audio again.
best tools that you have. Got the sound back on? We've lost sound again. I don't know how.
Yeah,
Instant
we can hear you.
Okay, is the best tool that you can have. So we're going to take first our chicken medallions. And like I said, we're going to stagger them. And that's about 5 ounces of chicken right there, which is enough for an entree. We are going to take our nice mushroom mixture and onions and pour it over the top, making sure that we have some nice mushrooms on top. Now, this particular version of the marsala had the potatoes on it. So we're going to take them. I have to decide which is the side of the plate that I'm going to be serving towards you. In my estimation, it's going to be this section because it actually points towards you. You want me to move that out of the way?
Mhm.
So I want to recreate basically a garden of potatoes. So you can see those nice stems there, and I want to have them cascading all the way around the plate on one side. That's my preference. And the bundle, the vegetable bundle, then you can either do like this, or you can come the opposite side. In this case, it's a very nice way to do it this way. Our garlic garnish. You can do something like this, okay? Or you can put it here, or you can put it on top if you want a dimensional setting. You can do anything with that nice head of garlic. Can I have that plate of garnishes? Thank you. Your jerky onions. It might be nice to have a few of the jerky onions on top, so you get that crunchy sensation when you bite into the dish. It also creates a color difference. And then if you'd like, at this point I would wipe the plate. I can find my bit. We can use chopped parsley around the sides to give it color, or chopped scallions around the sides, or both. Now you have some color to an otherwise brown plate. And that's the end of that scenario. Let's take this and put it here. Now let's do the bone-in one. Where did my red pot go? Okay. I'm always going to place the chicken first so that I know where I want it to be. So again, I want the pointy section of the chicken going towards the guest, in which case is you. In this case is you. I want to take the nice mushroom mixture, and I want to cascade that in this time around over the chicken breast. Don't worry about if it's too much juice. It's all good flavor. Because when you set that down, that juice is going to go all the way around and make it look like it's not dry. It's not dry chicken. If you remember when we first did our plate, I put the pasta on this side. But in this case, the curvature of the chicken is over here, so I'm going to want to deal with it over here. So I'm going to take that nice pasta, aglio olio. I'm going to take my nice large service fork as if you were eating the pasta. If it would cooperate. part on top of the pasta just for the color. And then comes in our vegetable bundle again. So in this case, you can bring the vegetable bundle right over the pasta and have it look just like so. You can do one of the same garnishes, or you can do a tomato rose if you have the patience to take the rose and put it somewhere on the plate so it creates some color. You can do that, or you can always come back in with the crispy onions or anything of that nature. That is everything that I have for you. This is our plated bone-in chicken breast marsala, and then we have the boneless chicken marsala with a list of garnishes that you can do, and I'll try to incorporate how you make those garnishes in my recipes when I send them to Nancy later on tonight. That's all I have.
Magnificent. That looks so great, Glenn. Thank you. Brian, let's cancel the spotlight and go to gallery view, and then we can see if anybody has questions. So just raise your hand if you have a question for Glenn or comment. Okay, Marcia.
Thank you so much, Glenn. This was so exciting, and I'm going to get the recipes later, but I was making all kinds of notes on the technique, which is great. The one question I had is, one of the times we lost the sound, when you were putting in the potatoes and carrots at 450, how long are they there?
Thank you. So the potatoes and carrots will be roughly about 20 minutes.
Okay.
But you want to watch those, Marcia, because invariably 450 is a hot oven. Okay. If you have a convection setting, I'd prefer that as well.
Oh.
So you may want to turn them halfway through, because otherwise they can get very, very charred on one side, which I personally don't mind. But for the visual sense of it, you'd want them to be equally browned all the way around.
So it would be 450 convection?
450 convection. The rule of thumb is 25 degrees less, but when I'm dealing with vegetables, I actually like a hotter oven. I like to cook them fast, get them in, get them out, because I don't like the overcooking. I actually usually will use a 500-degree oven, but I would never recommend that for anybody. But 425 convection will give you 450. If you wanted to roast the peppers and the beans that I was showing you, those will take 5 to 6 minutes. But the potatoes and carrots are more like 15 to 20 once the potatoes have been carved and the baby carrot has been peeled.
Thank you.
Lois.
I'm not sure how my sound is. Can you hear me?
We're good.
When you refrigerate something overnight, do you bring the food to room temperature before you reheat it?
For sanitation purposes, yes. There's always a question of what room temperature is and what the danger zone is. If it's too hot for you to touch, or if it seems like it's too hot to put in the fridge, it's too hot to put in the fridge. If it's still got some warmth to it, you're good. You're okay.
No, I mean the next day. Do you bring it to room temperature?
Oh yes, no, that's an excellent question. Yes, I would bring that food out a good 90 minutes to 2 hours before you're ready to work with it, because then it's going to do exactly what you want it to do. I'm assuming, since you're asking the question, cold food does not heat the same way that room temperature food would. I neglected to say that, actually. Thank you. It's a good question.
Okay.
Linda.
Quick question, Glenn, why did you use a cast iron skillet?
Because I can get it hotter. Again, with vegetables, I like things as hot as I can get them. I would have, if I was doing things from my family and just not concentrating on technology that was going out of me, I would have had that cast iron skillet on for a good 45 minutes and almost get it white hot. but because the vegetable, the same thing I said in the beginning, is that if you sear things in, vegetables included, you're going to avoid losing all the moisture of the vegetable, during the cooking process. It'll stay within. Also, all the vitamins and everything, it'll stay within the vegetable. Which reminds me, not it reminds me, but you, call me later. I gave you a reversed answer last week on the salmon. So we'll talk separately, but.
And one other question, since you mushied the vegetables with some oil and everything, you didn't have to oil your pan. Otherwise, would you have oiled your pan?
Yes. The pans I use are always seasoned with oil. I don't scrub my pans. I don't wash my pans with a lot of force. I season them with high heat, olive oil, salt, pepper, fresh garlic, and then I wipe it out as much as possible. If it looks dirty, obviously, when I cook, after I cook it, I wash it out. But I get those pans as seasoned as I can, so they are truly non-stick. But yes, you are correct, and the correct terminology I used was zhuzhed, not shmushed. But I zhuzhed the vegetables around in the bowl with the olive oil, garlic, salt.
And since you like things in odd numbers, my third question is, does it smell as good in your house as I'm imagining?
It depends. Yes, I mean, it smells like a lot of food. We cook a lot here, especially during the last 3 months. We've done cooking here every single day. But when you compile, there's a dog in the house. There are 3 people in the house. And it's a small house. There are a number of different smells. All of them good. All of them good. And Randy is great at cleaning the house, and she uses something, I don't know what it is, but it smells terrific.
Thank you. Love you.
Love you too.
Jan.
First of all, everything looked wonderful. What type of potatoes did you use, and did you peel them first?
So the answer to question number 1 are Yukon Golds. They were a medium size, otherwise known as B size. If you get them from a produce market. I did not peel them this time around because when I'm carving them, I like the color variation. Do I have one here? I like, excuse my hands, but I like the color variation between the skin, the caramelization of the oven, and then the inside of the potato. So whether you do red potatoes, I've done this with red potatoes as well. And I do the same thing. I do not peel them, I only carve them. If I was doing a baby potato, a C-sized potato, the little mini ones, I would usually peel just a ring of the potato, again, to give myself the color variation during the cooking process. If I didn't want a carved potato, but I wanted to use these size potatoes, I might cut them just in half or in quarters so that I get the different type of texture and coloration. I wash my potatoes very well, and then I soak them in a little bit of salt water so that it extracts any of those hidden particles that I may not be able to get with a brush or just a spray faucet. So I like the vitamin, again, all the vitamin properties, they're there in the skin for you. So there's no reason to peel it.
Thanks.
Judy?
It looks amazing. I have a question on pounding out the chicken breast. I don't have a mallet,
Okay.
and I guess I would normally have used a rolling pin. Is that wrong?
Well, nothing is wrong as long as it's comfortable for you. I don't know what kind of rolling pin you have. I have a marble one, and it won't work. It'll work, but it might break things. I actually would prefer, in that case, I'd use the pan, but I would use a small fry pan. And just because you get the nice flat surface underneath, and just kind of pound it that way. That's commonly done in kitchens where there are no mallets, there are no proper tools. Everything has its proper tool, but sometimes you got to do what works. So if the rolling pin is is comfortable for you. Are you saying you actually roll it, or do you hit it with the rolling pin?
I hit it, and then I end up rolling a little bit at the end if it's not as flat as I want it to be, but I do try to just hit it with the pin.
So the point of the hitting is it tenderizes chicken, and if specifically chicken. Also, you have to remember you're using that rolling pin on baked goods, conceivably. So cross-contamination is a big.
Right. Oh, you froze. Okay.
Those chicken properties can get into the wood, and they're hard to get out.
Well, I do use like a parchment or wax paper on top of the chicken.
Okay, well then it's okay. But I would err on the side of caution and use a pan or a pot, or just get yourself a mallet.
Okay, thank you.
The question.
Oh, Lee.
Thanks, Nancy. Glenn, great demonstration. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Two quick questions. Number one, you sprayed your cutting board after cutting the chicken, and I didn't catch what you used. And I'll let you answer that.
I used, you can buy it in any store. I don't know what I did with it. It's the Clorox cleanup. It's not full bleach. Let me see if I can find it for you. So you can find it in any cleanup section of the grocery stores. You can find it in Costco, or you can find it in Sam's Club. They usually come with a big bottle of refill as well. It is food safe. I use this always. I spray my cutting boards after using raw chicken, and then let it sit before I wash it and before I put it in the dishwasher. Again, under the category of better safe than sorry. Because chicken cross-contamination is an issue.
Great, thank you. And then the second question, I know you said you like to get vegetables very hot and cook them quickly. I'd like to hear your comments about cooking vegetables on a gas grill, a hot gas grill.
I do it all the time. So I do, and I love it. I love the flavor of a grilled vegetable. When we're inside, roasted or seared is the next best option. But I often lay asparagus spears over the grates of the grill. I'll take one of these nice peppers and just cut it lengthwise and open it up and grill it on the grill, and then cut it later. Eggplant slices, I will alternate peel the outside. Eggplant skin is difficult to eat. It's not inedible, but it's difficult for me to digest anyway. So I'll alternate peel white, purple, white, purple, white, purple stripe. And then I'll cut oblong slices about ½ an inch thick. Do the same. I'm a vegetable purist. I love the taste of the vegetable, and then I'm not finding my vocabulary, but marinate it in garlic and salt and pepper. Put it on that grill. Get those nice lines on and off. Let carryover cooking do the trick. If you brown it, you get your marks on either side of the slice of eggplant, of zucchini, of yellow squash, red onion I do on the grill all the time. If you make your marks on both sides and take it off, carryover cooking will do its job and make those vegetables perfectly al dente. They won't be raw, they won't be fully cooked through. And do you understand what I mean by carryover cooking? The heat that is still within the vegetable, even after you take it off the grill, take it out of the oven, the heat continues to cook the product, no matter what it is, meat, fish, vegetable, even though it's off the fire, even though it's off the grill. So it'll continue to cook for another 4 or 5 minutes.
Sounds great, thank you.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Debbie.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can now, yeah.
Thanks, this was so great. And I can't wait to try it myself.
Good.
But if I could ask you another question about the vegetables on the grill. I know that's not the topic tonight,
Okay.
but do you put them on a really, really hot grill, or do you just everything as hot as you can get it?
So I don't know what your grill is like. My gas grill has 3 burners, front, middle, and back. I typically turn my front and back burners on high and my middle burner on anywhere between low, medium, or off. And that's how I control my cooking. If something starts to flame up in the realm of the chicken world because of skin, I move things to the middle. Same thing with vegetables. I like to put them on the hot side first. Okay, when those marks start showing, I mean, contrary to what I just said, there is a feel for the time you want it on the grill, and I like those lines to get nice and almost black, and then flip it and then take it off. So if it feels to me like the lines are going to get too black too fast, I will move it towards the middle section of the grill. It's also all a control of how you of what you feel. What you feel in the cooking and how you like the vegetable. That's kind of a cop out, but I don't know how
No, you're right. You're right.
So,
Thank you.
So there is no time written in stone. How thick is the vegetable? How do you like your vegetables? Do you like them like I like my vegetables? You know, these are all things that you have to feel out. But
you're not really doing the indirect cooking. You're putting it on the really hot part of the grill to cook.
Yeah, I do have one of those perforated pans for my grill also. I very rarely use it, only if I feel that I'm going to start losing vegetables through the grates. I'll put them on that pan. But I'm constantly, I brush my grill after every use and before every use and get it hot before I ever use it. So I'm not worried about anything there. And I put my vegetables right on the grate, and they have already been marinated in an oil-based marinade, whether it be olive oil, garlic, salt, and pepper, which is really all that I use, or whatever you like.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Linda?
Goes back to mute. One other question regarding the roasted garlic you made. Is it schmearable?
Oh, I thank you for asking that question. When I do this garnish, people all the time, the first time I did this, I thought, okay, it's just a beautiful piece of garnish. The shells came back empty, because when you have it on your plate, yes, I mean, if you just squeeze that out, I don't know if you can see it, but it's coming out. It goes beautifully on a nice piece of bread. It goes beautifully on anything that you want, and people invariably eat every last piece of garlic that's within this garnish.
Thank you.
Good question.
Thank you.
Well, Glenn, thank you so much. That was a really wonderful presentation. I can't wait to start cooking. Really appreciate everything. And I wish everybody, what do we say here? Bon appetit?
Bon appetit, and be safe and be healthy.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your night.